Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. In each podcast, we'll be tackling questions that parents are asking about family life, parenting, work life, and so much more. So join us on this journey of discovery together.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is Alicia and I am your host for this episode. Now today we're talking about something many parents care about, raising an emotionally intelligent child. Now emotional intelligence isn't just a buzzword. It can be a life skill that shapes how our children relate to others and manage themselves. Really happy to have Pauline, principal of Faith Methodist Preschool, joining us today. She has worked closely with children and families for over 20 years. Welcome, Pauline. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself with our audience?
Thank you, Alicia, for your kind introduction. Yes, my name is Pauline. I've been in early childhood for more than 35 years. This year will be my 36 years. Wow, then I'm also a mother of a daughter who is 22 years old now. Been married for almost 24 years. Yeah, my journey is very interesting. I start off as a teacher in 1990. Yeah, so I start off with teaching children at the age of 18 months. And I remember at that time, I have a group of 8 children all by myself. And I have to manage them, play with them. At that time, I remember when I go for interview, my principal asked me, why do you join us? And I said, because I like to play with children. And I love kids because my mom is a nanny at the time. So from young, I'm exposed to children. And that's how I started my early childhood journey.
Wow, what a wonderful journey. I imagine that probably during that time, Pauline, the term emotional intelligence wasn't very much spoken about, right? But compared with today, most of us have probably heard of the term before, right? Especially if we venture online and we start to read different sort of parenting content. So let's hear from you today, Pauline. Could you help our audience to understand actually what does it really mean for a child to be emotionally intelligent?
My understanding is emotionally intelligent. I also question myself, what does that really mean? I think it's how the child can manage themselves in certain circumstances, their own self-awareness before they talk. And I also believe that all this factor is how they are being brought up in the family. So parents play a very important role in their own journey to be emotionally intelligent. So for example, parents' expectation, what do they want from the child? So I give a very simple scenario about greeting. This is my own experience with my own child. When she was very young, and I always believe in Asian culture, greetings is very important. When you meet your grandparents, say, good afternoon, grandpa, good afternoon, grandma. And when before eating, you will say, grandma eat, grandpa eat, So in festive season like Chinese New Year, where you have all your relatives comes together, and you have to call them and you have to greet them. My daughter sometimes questions me because there is a relative who tell her, say, no need. You just call us everybody. You don't need individual because there's so many of us. It's so tiring. So my daughter at the age of 5 came and asked me, is that possible? I told her, cannot. Mommy says cannot because everybody is very important and everybody has different title. And I think, she have a better understanding. So the next time when somebody say that to her, she will say, no, I have to call you by name because that's what my mom says. So I think she learns to be confident. She learns to know when to say yes and when to say no. But as parent or caregiver, we play a very important role in our child's life to give them that confidence to know what is right and what is wrong.
I hear the aspect about self-awareness leading to confidence, right? And that is really relevant for today's age in parenting. Could you share a bit with us why emotional intelligence is so important in today's age, especially when it's related to setting our good values in the example that you shared with us?
Okay, nowadays there's a lot of media. And media, sometimes when the children watch shows, they pick up things. And sometimes that's where I say family is very important, right? Because the values start from there. And then when media comes in, then they get confused. How come my mom said this and the media shows something else? So as parents, when we are aware that children are exposed to media, and if the children consult them and ask them, then they should be the one who talk to them, have a time of conversation and correct them necessarily. Well, sometimes has to be firm. Nowadays, children are so open. They have their own mindset and they have their own character too, right? Their own beliefs. And parents have to come in. Actually, it started as young as they can, even at young age. For example, eating of food. If parents want them to eat vegetables, let's say, they say, I don't want. But you do it differently and approach and say, no, this is good for you. And you can tell it in a story form. So parents play a very important role. And these are all nutrients that they need to know. So when they grow up, of course, when they grow up, they realize that, I really don't like certain things like bitter gourd. It's too bitter for me. But then when they were young, you expose them and they have already eaten so much, right? When they grow up, you give them that freedom. But these are not something that is very crucial, right? But it does help them to understand and confident. So I really think parents play a very important role. And to build a good relationship with the child so that the child can always fall back to them.
We are hearing very good things about why emotional intelligence is really important. Now, how does it differ from other skills that a child may want to learn during their formative years, such as academic skills, social skills, which are also very common and discussed? Could you share about the differences, if any?
I think all intertwined, not so much of them separated. Again, academic skills cannot be avoided because we need all these skills in order to look for jobs, right? We need to have all these different motor skills to build us up too, physically. And these other aspects also related. They're all intertwined in that sense. But again, academic skills, intelligent in that sense. It all also depends on parents' exposure to what they want the child to be exposed to. Read to them, give them the confidence of sharing their point of view, conversation. And we have to be very careful because sometimes when they say certain things and it's not receptive, we have to pause because nowadays children, some of them may not be as open and they decided to close themselves. That's where we have to be very mindful.
We hear a lot about the parents' role in shaping emotional intelligence and other good skills in our children's formative years. Maybe what is a good age, right, in your view as a preschool educator, that parents can be more intentional to build emotional intelligence? What's a good age to start thinking about that, to become more intentional?
Wow, there is no age limit, as young as possible. So for example, parents have to be a good role model. If parents want the child to start a habit of brushing the teeth, so the parents should brush teeth together with the child. And of course, sometimes the child will whine, they are too tired, they have all sorts of excuses. But as parents, we have to be an encourager. We have to think of way how to bring them into that momentum. I know parents sometimes will say they are too tired. But parents, if you really want to work with children, then you really have to make time and you really have to make that effort and be consistent in doing that role with your child. And that's very important.
Now, we know that in the whole topic of emotional intelligence, actually emotional regulation itself is quite also commonly discussed, right? How can parents help their child to better learn to regulate their emotions in the context of preschool children? How can parents better help their child when, for example, in the moment of maybe some temper tantrums?
First, they need to know their child. For example, I have parents who bring the child to school crying, screaming, and they say that, the child wake up at the wrong side of the bed and say that, it's very difficult. So there's a few factors. Firstly, the parents need to know, did they put the child early the day before? And then did they prep the child that they need to go to school the next day? And when the child wake up and then continue to talk to them, say, it's okay. In school we have a lot of games and they still throw tantrum, no more explanation. Just carry them gently, put them in a car, drive them to school, and then the school will take over from there. Because normally when the child reach school, some of them will scream, but some of them, when they see the teacher, they are fine. So the parents need to know that every child are different and they are very temperamental in certain things. I also have parents who say that maybe they are too young or they are still young, that's why they are like that. It's not true, It is really the regulating and parents communicating with the child.
How about in the moment when it happens where the child is unable to regulate their emotions and it happens in a setting of, it could be in public or at home? What are some tips or suggestions you can give to parents, right, to help to calm the children down or learn to express their feelings appropriately?
Okay, it all depends on the age group. If they are very young, sometimes they can't articulate it out. So parents, if they regularly talk to their child, they would know why the child reacted that way. But some parents are very busy. Some of them are called weekend parents, right? They only take their child back during weekend and they are really at a loss. Sometimes I think just leave the child alone. I know sometimes can be embarrassing. It happens to me also. I have this scenario where my daughter just throw tantrum at a shopping mall and I just walk away. And after a while, I just tell her, I'm going to the toy shop. And then the next minute she would just climb up and she would come to me. And she's only 2 then. Yeah, then after that, I went to the toilet and disciplined her to make her understand that that behavior is not acceptable. Yeah, but you don't embarrass your child in public. It's good to do it quietly and let them know that you mean what you said. So parents have to be very consistent. And of course, at the end, you must tell the child, I love you. I'm not happy with your behavior, but I love you as a child. So the child will understand that my mom did this to me because I behave wrongly, but my mom still loves me. So that is very important. The assurance of a parent's love for the child despite the fact that they make a mistake. I always tell parents, when you discipline a child, you must always end up with saying that you care for them and you love them. And you discipline because of their behavior, not because of them.
Thank you for reminding us about the importance of parents' assurance of their love for their child. I guess we're all learning. It's not easy, teaching our children how to regulate their emotions. I feel that oftentimes we as parents also need to learn this skill for ourselves because we can be tested in terms of our patience and we get frustrated as well. Maybe you can share with us, Pauline, any 1 or 2 challenges that you have encountered or seen that prevent or discourage parents from building emotionally intelligent children, like what discourages them? Since we talk about how good it is, what are some common challenges that may discourage parents?
I felt that when parents step back to home, they should first rest and regulate themselves first before they step into talking to the child. Because many times, parents say that when they come at the child will just run to them. And of course, they also want to be with them. But then it can become some point of irritation because then the child keep, Mommy, I want this. Mommy, can I have that? And especially when you have 2 children. She had to prepare herself first before she received these children so that it is easier to manage. So the parents have to regulate themselves first.
I really like what you've suggested for us, Pauline, that parents actually should take that space and a little bit of time to rest and ready ourselves before we engage our children, assuming we've had a long day of work in the example that you shared. Now, imagine if I'm a young parent, Pauline, what simple habits or routines, practices can I build into my family life? I'm looking for ideas on how I can nurture that emotional intelligence in myself and with my children at home.
So it depends what the parents are good at. Sometimes they can just start off with reading a book, wind down a bit, and then start reading a book. And then from there, they can move on from a story that if there is time, they can do some art and craft or play certain manipulative toy that they have already started off somewhere and they want to continue. So that's where then they can strike conversation. Then they are ready to receive whatever the child wanted to touch base with the parent.
I like the one about reading a book together because it's calming, right? For both parent and child actually to participate in this activity. How about some healthy and positive phrases parents can use with their child to create safe spaces for feelings? What can the parents say to their child?
Some positive emotion words that you can say is like, it's okay, I understand how you feel. Maybe we can work about it. We work towards it. And then maybe give example with the child's emotion that, okay, I am very unhappy today. My friend did this to me. All right. Then you have a storybook related to their emotions. And then you tell them, so how can we work it out together? Based on the story says that, you go back to tell your friends, it's okay, I forgive you. Certain things that you can help your child to be positive in certain words.
So teaching problem solving to a child in the context of the scenarios that they encounter, right? How about the identification of the feelings that they're experiencing? Would that be helpful for a parent to try to kind of draw that out from the child? For example, saying things like, I can see that you are frustrated. Do you want to share a little bit more?
Again, such words also depends on age. So the younger they are, sometimes they really cannot express. The best thing is to just give them a hug. Yeah, of course, the older one, you can ask more questions, but some children will go on and on and on. So the parents must know how to regulate their own emotions also, because it is not easy when the child goes on and on. So for example, my daughter used to be bullied when she was younger. So she can go on, and I will have to stop her and say, I understand how you feel, but we have to stop here, and why not I end with a word of prayer. Or I can say, okay, I understand. We will stop here. Why not we eat ice cream? It all depends on how bad it is. And you should know your child what can calm her or him down.
So in the face of challenges, for example, if the child feel frustrated that they can't do certain things, how can we help young children to build hope and a sense of optimism as part of being an emotionally intelligent child? Any examples that you can share with us?
Okay, for young children, right, motor skills are very important, right? So we have this buttoning materials that we let the children practice. So sometimes it can be very frustrating, even though the button is big. To fix it, it really needs them to develop their fingers and their fine motor skills. So when they are discouraged, we always tell them that it's okay, we'll try that again. We'll stop and do something else that they feel that they are comfortable with, and we will get back again. And we will always encourage the child to try again and say, it's okay, if you cannot do it now, we can always do it again. So we are instilling the practice make perfect, when you do it again and again. And some children will say, I want to try again, or somebody can have a buddy system that can help and support the child.
Thank you. I think it's really important for a child to hear things like, even if I can't do something now, it doesn't mean I can't do it next time. Right?
Yes.
So that they can continue to feel like they can try again. Thanks so much for sharing that. It's so great to have you on the podcast here with us, Pauline, sharing your experience and your insights, also drawing from your journey as a mom on our ParentNet podcast. Would you have any last words of encouragement or words of advice you'd like to leave with our listeners who want to grow at becoming someone who can raise emotionally intelligent children in their family?
I want to say this to parents. I think don't be discouraged when there's certain things that your child behave or react certain things. It's always very important that you have to establish the relationship with a child. It's a long journey as a parent from young and all the way when they grow up. Continue to persevere, continue to always communicate with your child and understand your child. There are up and down. Raising a child is really not easy. But when you continue that journey with them and come to the point where they understand where you come from when your child is much older, like now my daughter is at this age of 22, will say, thank you, Mom, that you have gone through with me on certain journey. So it will come. So don't be discouraged if your child doesn't understand you right now. It will come.
Thanks so much for the words of encouragement, Pauline, and thank you for joining us on the podcast. Now, for more of our parenting resources, remember to go to family.org.sg/subscribe. Now, and if this episode resonated with you, do hit the follow button to stay connected with us. Leave us a review or share with a friend or your community. And that's all for today. Do keep tuning in to our ParentNet podcast to learn and grow in your parenting journey.